like to start with a small round of introductions from the GD Land Centers, starting with Ghana, Tanzania, and then Washington. I would like to give the floor now to Ghana.
If you look at the multiplicity in use of water resources, water planning should be cross-cutting and basic component of the national planning, economic planning, which includes energy. So from this point, the water planning should be very basic and should embrace all other aspects of the economy. And therefore, it should be considered in tandem with other activities which we plan for national development.
If planning is done properly for water, it goes a long way to affect the production of energy, and also goes a long way to affect the communities, the local communities, in that if proper planning is done, the use of land or land use pattern for the water resources, like the flood areas, can be used properly to enhance the economy of the local people. For example, if there is proper plan to admit floods during the flooding time, as we have been experiencing with the emergence of the climate change, the flood areas can be used for fishing grounds during the flood time, and when there is drought, which we are finding it difficult to predict at the moment because of the climate change, the drought season can also provide good grounds for development of food crops.
But we come back later to that. Tanzania, can I give the floor to you, Sylvester?
And with the Senate, you can see there are two aspects. When you talk of availability of water, there is the water resource management on one aspect and the climate aspect on the other side. Of course, we cannot do very much on the climate aspect, but what we can do much is on the water resources management. And when it comes to energy or water planning, the first one should be on the water planning. As the colleagues from Ghana have said, we have to establish the available water resource. We have to make sure that we know what is really available and how it can be divided between different uses. In Tanzania, according to the water policy of 2002, we have really characterized and prioritized the uses of our water. What comes first? This is domestic water uses, and the other uses comes next. But when you come to hydropower, you find hydropower is one of the biggest commercial user of our water resources. And therefore, in my case, I find that energy planning in the case of the hydropower, these are the biggest users, and they benefit a lot from this water resource management. Therefore, I find that before you do any energy planning, you have to contact the water resource management unit to see what is really available after taking all the other priority uses like the domestic and other industrial uses.
Thank you very much. Washington, can we have your reflection?
We have to start asking ourselves questions about what kind of mechanisms exist to not only do the coordination that someone mentioned earlier, I believe from Ghana, which is extraordinarily important, but to be able to conduct what I would call an almost permanent process of analysis, education, communication, and most emphatically, negotiation over what benefits are.
Luis, and you want first? Okay. I would like you to give it from a Brazilian, you from a Californian perspective. Huh? Thank you.
Okay, let me start addressing Walter's question, which I think is the most fundamental one. What are the mechanisms to assure this integration? I think based on everyone's presentation, this integration mechanism has to exist, and we have seen that some mistakes in the past of the power sector being the driver's seat cannot be replicated in the future. I know it gets much more difficult when you have multi-countries involved, and the example which comes to my mind is the Lake Victoria in the year 2006, 2 years ago. Involves other countries, riparian states, and Uganda was in desperate need for power, and overdrawing the reservoir would not recover its water. So the mediation mechanism and the conflict resolution, it's more difficult than in one single country. But I would like to draw more attention to pricing, which I think it's very much aligned with what the bank has been saying, and in the case of Brazil, with the National Water Agency has been saying but not yet implementing. And one example which I can refer to is, again, the power rationing in 2001, where the water was a very scarce resource, and the way to evaluate this scarcity, the economic way, was to look into this linear programming model and look at the economic value of water, which was established to be $300 per megawatt hour at that point in time. So using 1 cubic meter of water would represent in kilowatt hour equivalent or megawatt hour equivalent $300. And to better allocate this resource among the different users, a mechanism was put in place where every single user was given a quota, was a rationing system. This quota was 80% of last year's consumption. So every consumption over and above this quota would be priced at $300 per megawatt hour. So the cost of scarcity went all the way down to the end user in such a way that the end user could react to this price.
Closing remarks, wrap up, Abel?
Well, just to say that I'm very, very pleased and impressed by this session. It's the questions and the discussions with Ghana and Tanzania extremely relevant, and the level of the attendance. So it's a pleasure for us. We work for you, and these are two countries where the bank has substantial program in water that goes on from water supply and sanitation to energy to many different areas of the water agenda. So we'll be very happy to continue these discussions. It's this dialogue with you on water policies. It's on many different areas that you might like. It's the World Bank Institute is the branch of the bank that deals with the learning and the capacity. It's a building agenda in our client countries, and from our side of the bank will be very, very pleased to continue discussing with you at this level. It's through this mechanism. It's and every piece of information that we have presented here, you can find that in our website. Is www.worldbank.org/water. This is a new and updated website. Most of the data and reports that we have mentioned here, including the one that Luis Maurer just mentioned on Brazil licensing, is there, and you can download it easily. So it's if you would like to continue this dialogue, it's please get in touch with our sector leader. It's in each one of the countries. I believe in Tanzania is Mr. Atto Brown, and also in Ghana, in Accra, I think is Mr. Ventura Benguechea, in Spaniard. Lives there. So I think through them we'll be happy working jointly with WBI to provide more of the content that you like, and pass the experiences and lessons and the knowledge that we can have at the bank. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attendance.
Abel, thank you for your valuable contribution again. Thank you very much, and I hope that we'll meet again.